nowadays you got to have that because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. What's the story, lads? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. So it's been a couple of days since the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship semi-final between Tyrone and Kerry. Tyrone, of course, winning that game by a point. They won it by a scoreline of 3-14 to 22 points. A monumental win for the Red Hand County over the Kingdom, upsetting the odds in many ways. Kerry going in as massive, overwhelming favourites, not just in the semi-final, but also in terms of the All-Ireland. I think after what happened to Dublin against Mayo, pretty much everyone really had Kerry as the team to beat now. They were the favourites. They were the side that was going to eventually win the All-Ireland and end Dublin's 6-in-a-row dominance in terms of, you know, being the side that actually lifted the Sam Maguire. But in the end, that didn't happen at all. Tyrone were the side who won the game by a point. A monumental win, a huge win for Tyrone and for the Red Hand County. You know, this was the first time they had beaten either a Kerry, a Dublin, a Mayo since 2008. This was the first sort of big, massive victory that they've had since 2008. The last time they won an All-Ireland, of course, when they had beaten was a Kerry in the final that year, and had obviously beaten Dublin en route as well, beaten Dublin quite comfortably. So, you know, an incredible achievement, and Tyrone and Mayo now in an All-Ireland final. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? Like, I still can't get my head around it. Tyrone and Mayo in an All-Ireland final, and, you know, what's mad is Mayo haven't won it in 70 years, Tyrone haven't won it since 2008, and it's only I think the fourth time since 1999 that there's been an All-Ireland final that hasn't included either Dublin or Kerry. That's, you know, another incredible statistic as well. You know, Kerry were pretty much in the majority of All-Ireland finals between the years of 2000 and 2011, and then 2011 onwards was Dublin that very much dominated from there. But yeah, quite incredible really. And Tyrone and Mayo, you know, someone's going to end a long drought there. And wow, just I still can't get my head around it, to be perfectly honest. And what I thought I would do is have a look at all the different social media reactions after Tyrone's victory over Kerry, looking at a lot of tweets, responses from players, from fans, from journalists, having a bit more of a digger deep into the Tyrone-Kerry game, having a little bit more look at the statistics, and as well some other facts and figures along the way. And of course, if you are new around here, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, I would kindly appreciate it. It really helps the channel grow, and yeah, you know, really do appreciate all the recent subscribers, commenters, anyone contributing to the channel in any way whatsoever. We're getting closer to 2,000 subscribers, which I never seen possible at the start of the year, to be perfectly honest, but we are getting there, so I do very much appreciate anyone who is leaving likes and commenting. And yeah, look, listen, the All-Ireland football season might be coming to a close, and the hurling season's always obviously finished now, but there is still going to be a number of content still coming on the channel. We're going to have a Dublin Club Senior Football Championship preview and a hurling Championship preview as well. I'm going to try to do one for Kerry, for Donegal, for a number of different counties. We're going to do Club Championship previews, as well as reviewing the All-Ireland Championship, you know, Team of the Seasons, All-Star Team of the Seasons, reviewing the big moments, discussing all the big moments as well. So yeah, you know, the regular podcasts will be coming back with players as well, so do stay tuned for all that. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. So as I said, we'll have a look at some tweets from players, fans and media, and the first one coming in here is from Darren OSullivan, former Kerry footballer and former All-Ireland winner himself. He says, got it badly wrong with my prediction. Kerry couldn't cope with Tyrone's intensity and energy. Too many players didn't turn up for Kerry. Yeah, absolutely. Like, when you look back at Kerry's forward line, you know, we spoke before about the amount of options that Kerry have going forward in terms of Sean O'Shea and David Clifford, but like, they were the only two options that they had. Paul Gainey had an off day, he was very quiet. Stephen O'Brien just hasn't produced the same championship form since 2019, in my opinion. We just haven't seen him deliver in that same way. Paudie Clifford done what he needed to do. Like, he isn't the man that's going to be, you know, scoring you 6-7 points and winning you a game. I actually thought he was okay. But even off the bench, like, Killian Spillane looked bright, he looked positive, he made a bit of an impact, but again didn't score. So there were a lot of issues there for Kerry, especially going forward. Their wing backs didn't seem to have the same sort of output in terms of Gavin White and Brian O'Buglock, who would normally race forward from cornerback. So certainly Kerry didn't seem to have that same attacking output that they had in the Cork game previously. And yeah, Tyrone just dragged Kerry down to their own level. Like, they really made it a dogfight. They made it tough. They fought for every ball, and I think that's kind of been a motto in the All-Ireland this year. It's been energy. It's been not giving up, not lying down. We've seen what Mayo, that's what they done against the Dubs, and Tyrone were similar against Kerry. They just never lied down. They played with such energy and passion, and defensively as well, just always getting the blocks in at the right places. And they just made life so difficult for Kerry, and in the end it overwhelmed them and beat them. Colin Parkinson of the GAA Hour, he says, I think Peter Keane has to be gone now. 3 years and no All-Ireland with a lot of talent is too long. Who is next? I'd say Tomás O'Shea there, he's referencing. He says respected everywhere, hard but fair man on the field, and tactically good on RT. Very obvious choice for me. Yeah, look, listen, I think for me, yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Peter Keane, I'd have to agree with the fact that I think Peter Keane probably has to go. Look, listen, you never want to see anyone lose their job. You never want to be, putting tweets out and going absolutely crazy saying this person needs to go. It is at the end of the day an amateur sport, and you don't want to be too critical or too harsh on certain players, or managers. But I would agree. I do think Peter Keane has to go at this point. You look at his reign. I think his first year he overachieved in getting Kerry to an All-Ireland final, and I think that bought him a lot of time, in my opinion. I think his first year in 2019 saw Kerry done very well. They weren't the finished article, and they came with as close as anyone did within that 6-year period of winning the All-Ireland. Like, they had Dublin on the ropes. They beat Tyrone in a semi-final. Very impressive against Donegal, I remember, in that Super 8s game. Beat Mayo as well, I think, in the Super 8. So they were very, very impressive. But I think in many ways, by getting to that All-Ireland final in 2019, it probably ramped the pressure up too much on this Kerry side. They, got beat by Cork last year in a very disappointing defeat. Their tactics were all wrong that day. They were far too defensive, playing Brian O'Buglock as a wing forward. I mean, we're seeing this year he's playing as a corner forward, or as a corner back, I should say. And obviously this year everything was going well, everything was going perfect. There were blitzing teams in the league. They put 6 goals past Tyrone, you'll remember. Were very impressive against the Dubs as well in that league game. Blew Galway away as well, blew Cork away, then blew Clare away. Like, they're just blowing teams away, and then it came to the big moment, and they just couldn't deliver. They just couldn't get over the line. And I do think the pressure has just been a bit too much for this Kerry side, and they kind of, looking at them right now, they kind of remind me a little bit like the Dublin side before they got over the line in 2011. They're not necessarily being hammered like Dublin were in 2008 and 2009, but even before that, like, Dublin were always thereabouts. They always had the players, the talent, the young players coming through, but they just couldn't get over the line. They just couldn't beat one of those big sides. And I feel like for Kerry, that's what it kind of reminds me of a little bit. But I do think a change in management is probably going to be needed. Look, listen, who comes in? I'm not sure. Is it Tomás O'Shea? I mean, I don't know. Like, you'd probably want someone with a bit more managerial experience, in my opinion. I've seen Colin Collins being referenced. He's obviously done a tremendous job with Clare. He is a Kerry man himself. I think he'd be a fantastic fit for Kerry, in my opinion. A lot of people looking at Eamon Fitzmaurice. Could he come back into the Kerry side? He won an All-Ireland in 2014 with a Kerry side that was very much aging. They said the production line was finished in Kerry and all the rest, and Kerry still went on to win the All-Ireland. So I think he'd be a fantastic fit to bring back. I think they're probably your 2 obvious choices. Look, listen, I know there's always good under-20 managers, minor managers coming through at the moment as well, so I'm sure, well, in terms of not under-20 managers, but players who are managing, or managers who are managing those teams, for example. So there are a lot of options there for Kerry, but you would have to say at the moment it's going to be tough for Peter Keane to survive this one. Niall Quinn says Pat Spillane throwing Peter Keane under the bus before the final result was terrible form. Some county man. And yeah, look, listen, let's talk about Pat Spillane here now for a moment, because there's a couple of different tweets here we'll read out in relation to Pat Spillane. I thought his coverage on RTE was just absolutely dreadful, in my opinion. It really, really was. It was so poor. Just absolutely, I just really didn't enjoy it at all. Like, it was just so bitter. Like, just literally, even at the final whistle, when he was saying, Tyrone, this wasn't a shock, Tyrone were favourites, Tyrone were going to win this game. I mean, this was a shock, it was a surprise, and I just felt like he was trying every tactic under the bus to try and discredit Tyrone's victory. It was very salty and bitter, and I think with a man with the pedigree of Pat Spillane, considering the All-Irelands he's won, considering the amount of time he's been on TV. I thought he'd handle it a lot better. I really did. And he just seemed very, very salty and very, very bitter. Sour taste in my opinion. And even before, right before the game, he's talking about the vaccinations and the fact that obviously Fergal, Logan and Brian Dooher have come out and said that a number of their players haven't been vaccinated. They didn't, those players had a choice of not being vaccinated if they didn't want to, whereas Kerry's players were vaccinated. And I mean, there's all a hula around this. Should have Tyrone have got the week's extension then because they were vaccinated, or because they weren't vaccinated? But then when you look at the flip side of that, I mean, even if you're vaccinated, you can still get the virus. I know people who have been vaccinated and have actually, gotten quite sick from it. So, I mean, it's all kind of hearsay, in my opinion. Personally, I think it was the right thing to do to extend the game by a couple of weeks. You want it to be a fair playing field. Yes, okay, some people were saying, and even Pat Spillane was saying at half time, that by Tyrone having COVID, it somehow made them better, which again I thought was another ridiculous statement. Look, listen, you have to take Tyrone at face value. How did all the players get the virus? I mean, that's another question, and we don't really know. Was there a celebration after they won the Ulster title against Monaghan? We don't know. We honestly don't know, and we can only speculate. And I think pointing the finger and saying, oh, this happened or that happened, we just have to give Tyrone the credit for it. In my opinion, we have to look at them at face value, and we have to believe their word for it, in my opinion. And I did think Pat Spillane in particular, trying to discredit Tyrone's victory at any way possible, it was so poor. And he came out with another article in the Irish Independent during the week saying that Dublin didn't win the game against Mayo because all their players are, relishing social media and they're all putting up social. I mean, what an absolute load of, in my opinion. And certainly for me, I like Pat Spillane sometimes. He's a bit of entertainment. He's funny. And certainly I had a lot of enjoyment watching his, I didn't enjoy it in some way, but I did enjoy how stupid he was. But surely, I mean, it was just ridiculous. And Darren McKee's here following up with what I said there. He says, no pundit should be on a TV radio panel when his or her own county is playing. Objectivity goes out the window way too regularly. I do think there's some pundits, in my opinion, that have done a great job at being objective and sort of not falling into the trap of being too sort of loyal to their own county in many ways. I do think Tomás O'Shea's done a great job. I watched him on the Sunday game, and he says it how it is, and he's probably one of the best pundits out there, in my opinion. I think Kieran Whelan, to be fair, sometimes he does a great job at defending Dublin, but I do think at the same time there has to be someone defending Dublin, because a lot of the time everyone's kind of anti-Dublin. But I do think Kieran Whelan has been fairly objective as well. He even said earlier in the year, he even called it before anyone really, that the production line in Dublin was not quite there and the players coming through were not quite there. So I do think Kieran Whelan's been alright, but in terms of you would have to say, if there are pundits out there, in particular like Pat Spillane, who's just getting far too defensive around his own county and bitter and all the rest, maybe they should change it up a bit and maybe just not have him involved in the Kerry games and maybe get him involved in other games, because you want to see objectivity when you're watching punditry, and you want to see a fair analysis. And in all honesty, we didn't get that. We just got Pat Spillane giving out and going crazy, and Sean Kavanagh just sort of defending his corner. It was just it was very bizarre, to be honest. McGowan's of Fibsborough says, somebody get Pat Spillane a drink. I had to put this up here. McGowan's of Fibsborough, a very good pub, not too far down the road from me. So that was brilliant. And maybe someone should have got him a drink, and that probably would have relaxed him. Maybe get him an iced tea or something like that, or maybe a vodka and coke or something to that degree. I don't really know, but just get him something anyways, for God's sake. John Egan, Westmeath footballer, says the ball Pat Spillane is rattled. Yeah, he was absolutely rattled. I mean, he was on the fence. I mean, literally, he was going absolutely crazy. And as Shane Lowry tracker says, it's not the official Shane Lowry account, but it says some crack between Sean Kavanagh and Pat Spillane let them at it. A part of me watching it enjoyed it because of how funny it was. It was it was kind of like watching Paramount comedy or something like that, like the Comedy Club. It was kind of funny, but like what I said before, I tuned in to watch. I wanted to see what they were saying at half time, what's going on, what kind of analysis can they give the fans watching or people watching at home who aren't at the game. And we didn't really get that, to be honest. We just got a lot of shouting back and forth, and even Kieran Whelan, who was just sitting in the background smiling, I think he even knew how ridiculous it was. So yeah, I mean, it just wasn't a great watch, and look, listen, hopefully they change things up for the All-Ireland final anyways. Neve Campbell says, had a dream last night that Tyrone beat Kerry and Dooher and Logan got us into an All-Ireland final in their first year of management. Yeah, I mean, look, listen, it probably is a dream for Tyrone fans. I mean, they probably, this was probably the one year that I think a lot of people, well, actually at the start of the year, I even made a video discussing how, maybe why Tyrone could actually win the All-Ireland and potentially go and beat Dublin. And I was kind of saying with the fact that, you had Colin McShane coming back from injury, you had Conor McKenna who came back from Australia, you had a new management team in there, fresh ideas, a lot of players maybe coming back into the team that had sort of been exiled a little bit under Mckee Hart. But I think as you watch the league and all the rest and kind of how the championship was structured this year, and given all the circumstances, you thought that it would be very tough for Tyrone to go and beat a side like Kerry and go and win an All-Ireland final, because it was still their first year under management, and you did feel like it was just a little bit early for Tyrone to go and win an All-Ireland. But I did always feel that Tyrone, they had the potential, like they had the players there, brilliant defensive setup in there. They have the defensive players. They just needed to get their structure right. Like, even though they conceded 6 goals against Kerry in that game, for example, I always felt like they had the players, they had the talent. It was just more about getting it right and getting the structure right and getting the way they were playing right and finding that balance between not being too attacking but not being too defensive. And they found it. Like, they found it absolutely brilliantly. And coming through Donegal and Monaghan served them brilliantly going into the Kerry game. They were prepared, they were ready, even despite the whole COVID situation, and they were fantastic, and they were deservedly the better side on the day. And yeah, wow, what an achievement for Brian Dooher and Logan, and what an opportunity now to go and win an All-Ireland. And I mean, what a story that would be. Mckee Hart steps away. Well, he doesn't step away. I mean, he kind of got forced out in many ways, but it was probably the right decision. Well, and matter of fact, it was the right decision looking at things now. And in comes Brian Dooher and Fergal Logan, and imagine they win an All-Ireland in their first year. I mean, that is incredible stuff. And certainly at the start of the year, it was Dublin and Kerry. Some people were discussing Tyrone maybe a little bit, and then Mayo were kind of, being discussed a little bit. They were the 4 counties people were discussing, but for Tyrone to actually potentially go and do that, I mean, that would be nothing short of remarkable, and certainly one of the great All-Ireland victories, in my opinion. Dave Morris here with some statistics here for us. He said Tyrone scored 65% of scores from turnover, scoring 2-7 from turnovers, 1 in own third, restricting Kerry to 0.35 points per possession, the same as the Ulster Championship. Serious defensive display. They didn't score from a Kerry kick-out. Yeah, I mean, they just kept turning Kerry over time and time again, and they just forced Kerry into mistakes. We've seen at times Sean O'Shea will be trying to go on those driving runs like he was doing against Cork and like he was doing for much of the league. And Tyrone they were in the right positions at the right times, whether it was Kieran McGeary, Padraig Hampsey, even Niall Sludden dropping back as well, Peter Hart as well. Like, they seemed to always be in the right positions, and they were crowding on the likes of Sean O'Shea in those positions. And even when David Clifford got it as well, they were just forcing mistakes, forcing turnovers. Like, a couple of times David Clifford, he overhopped the ball at one stage. Sean O'Shea ran out over on the sideline. Like, it was just brilliant from Tyrone in that kind of instance. And like what I was saying in the preview, really, when I was kind of doing a bit of a tactical breakdown, like, when Tyrone win the ball back off Kerry, they had to move it with pace, they had to move it quickly, and they had to move fast, and they were absolutely brilliant at doing so. Like, you seen the goal, the first goal from Conor McKenna, for example, like, it comes directly from Padraig Hampsey overturning the ball. They move the ball very, very quickly, driving straight through the middle, flicking it on to Conor McKenna, Matty Donnelly involved as well, and then Conor McKenna slotting it in. It was just brilliant to watch from a Tyrone point of view. And like, that's what they needed to do, and they had a game plan and they executed it perfectly, and it was just it was brilliant to watch from a Tyrone point of view, without doubt. Mortimer Murphy says, I never realised how hated Kerry folk and our football team are until we lost a thriller. Mediocre quality wise today by a point after extra time. I would like to say well done to Tyrone and tough luck to the Kerry lads, the same Kerry lads who parked their lives during COVID. I don't think anyone hates. I didn't really see. I didn't really see any hateful comments towards Kerry or anything like that. Of course, a bit of banter and having the crack and having the laugh. And I think as a fan, you have to accept that. As a Dublin fan, we got it a couple of weeks ago. A lot. And it was way more, to be honest, because a lot of people do dislike Dublin, and you can understand why. They've won 6 All-Irelands in a row. They've been dominant for how many years in Gaelic football. And I think probably a lot of people, probably Dublin fans and Mayo fans and a lot of fans, probably Cork fans, probably had a lot of joy in seeing Kerry lose that game, because they were the side that everyone tipped to win the All-Ireland. Like, they were the all-conquering favourites. They were blitzing teams in the league, blitzing teams in the Munster Championship. They came into this game as overwhelming favourites, and incredibly enough, Tyrone managed to go ahead and turn them over. So I think it was just a bit of crack, a bit of a laugh. And I do think, you can never be too sensitive when you see, people going mad at, or people having a bit of crack or having a bit of banter. Like, if you get too sensitive and you get too worked up about it, maybe you should go and follow golf or something like that, maybe that, or tennis, something to that effect, because look, listen, it's all a bit of a laugh. And even in some YouTube videos and stuff, when some people go mad, kind of having a laugh that Dublin have lost, and I just have to take that on the chin, and that's what we all have to do, because at the end of the day, it is a sport. It isn't a matter of life or death. It's all a bit of a laugh, and and if people were being very hurtful towards Kerry or going over the top, look, listen, that's their problem as much as anything. But yeah, it's all a bit of a crack and just a bit of a laugh, really. Michael O'Regan says, 3 of us Kerry people who met for coffee yesterday morning met again today. Cemetery atmosphere. We agreed Tyrone deserved their victory, but that the COVID controversy cast a shadow over the game. Okay, fair enough. COVID controversy, I just don't buy it. I really don't, and I get frustrated when I see all the excuses ringing in, like, Kerry had 5 weeks off, and et cetera, et cetera. If Tyrone lost the game, that probably would have been an excuse. We didn't win the game because all our players had caught. Like, it's all just excuses, and it's this and it's that, and everyone's pointing the finger, and we didn't win because of this reason, and it was the referee, and it was because the fan. Just all sorts of rubbish, really. And I just think you have to accept that Tyrone were the better side. Look, listen, I think Kerry had a 5-week layoff. And obviously that's not brilliant preparation at all. They certainly didn't want that, and with the fact that the championship was nearly over, they probably couldn't play any real challenge matches. They probably maybe played a couple of challenge matches with club teams, but generally they wouldn't have been able to play any challenge matches with high quality opposition similar to Tyrone. But neither were Tyrone. A lot of those players would have been self-isolating, would have had COVID, wouldn't have been able to train, and yet they still went on to win the game. And yes, the COVID controversy will probably, it will be there, and people will discuss it, and it will be remembered and whatnot, but it didn't have an impact on the game, in my opinion. Because I do think at the same time is that, Tyrone were the side that couldn't really prepare. Kerry could over-prepare. Like, I just don't think that was a valid excuse for Kerry's defeat, in my opinion. I think they need to accept the loss. And probably just look at themselves and think, why is it we have all these great players and all these brilliant players coming through, but yet again we failed at a semi-final? Yet again we don't even get to an All-Ireland final, because this Kerry side, with the quality they have, should be getting to an All-Ireland final and should have beaten this Tyrone side that had all this mispreparation coming into it. So yeah, I do think there's a lot of question marks more so over Kerry, and I think with the COVID situation, I just think you can't use it as an excuse, in my opinion. You really can't. Kieran Donaghy says, not the result Kerry wanted. They gave it everything. The rub of the green wasn't with them. I hope we get behind the scenes footage on Sky Sports GAA of Peter's reaction to his son Dereck coming off the bench to inspire Tyrone. Thanks to Remus, whatever that is there, and lovely to get LR into the studio. Not the result that Kerry wanted, no doubt about it. The rub of the green wasn't with them. Look, listen, fair enough. There was a few refereeing decisions here or there, but I don't really I think the referee had generally an okay game, compared with some of the other referees we've seen in previous games. Mayo, Dublin, for example, was absolutely horrendous refereeing. This was a little bit better. It wasn't brilliant, but look, listen, do you really want to point the finger at referees and say, the rub of the green? Yeah, probably maybe the luck wasn't quite there for Kerry on the day. And sometimes you need a bit of a luck. You need a bit of luck sometimes to be successful, and you need a bit of luck sometimes just to get that victory, get over the line, move into the All-Ireland final and build from there. For Kerry, a disappointing result. I'm sure there'll be a lot of soul searching now going into what will be another long winter ahead for Kerry supporters and management. And I think there's a lot of work needed to be done, in my opinion, for Kerry, because even defensively in that game as well, like, just a lot of question marks, and those questions of Kerry's defence, they're still there, in my opinion. GAA Stats says the final will be the first time Tyrone have played a team who does not have more titles than them. Tyrone v Kerry in 1986, Kerry had 29 All-Irelands. 1995, Dublin had 21 All-Irelands. 2003, Armagh had the one, whereas Tyrone didn't have any. Obviously, Tyrone won that game and I suppose levelled up with Armagh at the final whistle. And then 2005, it was Tyrone v Kerry. Kerry obviously have more. And 2008, Tyrone v Kerry. Kerry obviously still have more. And then 2018, Tyrone v Dublin. Dublin with the 27 All-Irelands at that stage. So, yeah, this will be the first time Tyrone... Do Tyrone have more All-Irelands than Mayo? I guess they do. I guess Mayo must have won, 2 All-Irelands in the past, or at least 3. I'm not too sure, but... yeah, obviously Mayo haven't won an All-Ireland in 70 years, as we very well know. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many intriguing factors. Like, the most bizarre thing as well is there's never really been a rivalry between Tyrone and Mayo down the years. They've had a few interesting battles here or there, but there's been nothing concrete or brilliant, or, it's going to be intriguing, definitely. And they've been the two sides that have been thereabouts over the past 8 to 10 years, but haven't been able to get over the line, and now one of them will get over the line. So it's going to be very intriguing, very interesting, and yeah, I mean, I'm very much looking forward to doing a preview, doing build-up podcasts, all the rest as well. So last but not least, we have Tommy Rooney of Off the Ball. He says, after everything that's gone right for them so far in 2021, the first time Kerry are really tested, they revert to their 2020 failings all over again. So reliant on David Clifford in that half. But there's time to get it right. They need to get that front six motoring sharpish. Yeah, obviously this tweet came in just towards the end of the game, or extra time, so to say. Yeah, I mean, and that was the big thing for Kerry, and it was something I was saying in the preview as well. I mean, it will be very interesting to see what happens if Kerry are 1 or 2 points down going down the home stretch. If they're 4 or 5 points down, how do they respond? Like, can they turn it around? Do they have it within themselves? Do they have the experience there? And the answer was they didn't. And they did actually show a little bit of fight towards the end of the game. Like, what were they, 5 points down going into the final 7 to 8 minutes, and they brought it back to a point, but just couldn't get that final opportunity. So they did show a degree of fight. They did show a degree of, okay, we're going to try and find a way back into the game. But it just wasn't enough. And once again, for Kerry, in a similar fashion to last year, I suppose not in a similar fashion in terms of the style that they played, but once again, just being beaten in a very disappointing fashion. It wasn't an All-Ireland final, it was an All-Ireland semi-final, and once again, when they've really been tested, when they've really been under the cosh, they haven't been able to find the answer. And I think that's been the big problem probably for Kerry over the past 2 years in the championship, has been that when it's really mattered, they haven't been able to get over the line. And I think that would be a big thing for Kerry, and I do think that's probably one of the big worries for Peter Keane and in his management in particular, because they've come so close. They have all the right players. They seem to be doing everything right, but then when it comes down to it, they just can't quite to get over the line. And a lot of soul searching for Kerry now in the coming weeks, and certainly it'll be very intriguing watching what happens next in terms of Peter Keane, in terms of the management, and in terms of what changes they make moving forward. But anyway, lads, that's going to be the end of the video. Do leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. And like what I was saying earlier, do stay tuned for more podcast interviews. A lot of content coming out now over the next couple of weeks, looking at the club action in further detail, as well as we move into the All-Ireland Senior Club season. Well, obviously, a lot of club championships have already started, but we'll certainly be looking at more in-depth, discussing them in more in-depth in podcast interviews and absolutely everything. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more watch-alongs as well. I will be doing a watch-along for the Mayo and Tyrone All-Ireland final. I will be in London that weekend, so I just keep getting very unlucky, don't I, with these rescheduling situations. But we're going to have to find a way to make it work, because that's what we do. So Mayo and Tyrone All-Ireland final. I'm buzzing for it, and certainly be a lot of content. There will be a big interview actually coming out as well. Well, hopefully, if all goes well, with a former Tyrone player, 3-time All-Ireland winner. Hopefully that all goes well, and you'll see that very soon. So stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you all later.